They went on a trip to Iceland without me. My cousin posted about it online. An epic family getaway we'll never forget. Huge thanks to the person who made it all happen. That person was me. I had covered $9,800 in expenses. Then my aunt mistakenly texted me something intended for her sister. He's too much of a coward to say anything. That was the last straw. I reversed every single charge. At 5:07 a.m. their time in Iceland, my phone started blowing up. 22 missed calls. One message from my father. Why would you do this? It all started with that social media post. My cousin Brianna, the kind who lives behind 12 different filters, shared a picture of herself on a glacier, teal puffer jacket, peace sign, holding an overpriced coffee from some trendy Reykjavik spot. The caption cut deeper than I expected. Unforgettable family adventure. Thanks to the one who pulled it off. No tag, no name, just that vague shout out. Like I was supposed to feel grateful from halfway across the world. Like the money for their fancy cabin and geothermal pool selfies had fallen from the sky. That one was me. $9,800. That's what disappeared from my accounts over the course of 2 weeks in small, sneaky charges. First $740 to Icelandair. Then $1,320 to some boutique hotel in Reykjavik. $500 here, $2,100 there. I noticed the pattern days before they left. When I asked Aunt Maureen about it, she acted totally clueless, said she had no idea how my card got linked. And I let it slide. I hate confrontation, especially with family. They counted on that. I was still trying to figure out what to do when they actually boarded the plane. My parents, both aunts, Uncle Jim, Brianna, her sister Kaylee, and even my little brother Josh. 9 people. 9 people on a family trip I was never told about, let alone invited to. I only found out because my boss forwarded me a vacation request I never submitted. I run payroll at work. I know how to follow a money trail. They got sloppy and assumed I'd never check. But the post itself didn't send me over the edge. It was the text. That night, staring at my banking app, Aunt Maureen messaged me. Clearly meant for someone else. He's too spineless to speak up. No context, no apology. Just a casual insult, like I was an ATM with feelings. Maybe I had been, until that moment. So I did something they never expected. I called the bank. I reported every transaction as fraud, froze everything pending, and asked them to contact the vendors directly. Then I went further. I emailed the car rental company, the excursion operators, even the Blue Lagoon. Anything booked under my card or accounts got canceled. By 5:07 a.m. in Iceland, my phone lit up on the nightstand. I was wide awake. 22 missed calls in total. Dad 7 times. Aunt Maureen 5. Brianna 4. Mom twice. The rest were random Icelandic numbers. Probably the hotel, trying to figure out why the reservation vanished. Then Dad's text came in, all caps. Why would you do this? No explanation sought. Just instant blame, like I had ruined their vacation out of nowhere. I didn't reply. I made coffee, turned my phone off, and waited. I knew the real storm was coming. When I turned it back on that evening, their trip was falling apart. I expected tears, guilt trips, frantic voicemails. I didn't expect total meltdown. The moment the hotel reservation was canceled, the electronic key stopped working at 4 p.m. local time. They had been out hiking some black sand beach. When they came back, the door wouldn't open. No front desk mercy, no exceptions. Just a dead keypad. I never touched their flights. Those they actually paid for themselves, but everything else was in my name. The big SUV rental, gone. The guided tours, canceled. The Blue Lagoon. They showed up in robes and were denied entry. They didn't understand what was happening until Aunt Maureen got the fraud alert email from the bank and accidentally forwarded it to me. She didn't even try to deny it anymore. She just threw it into the family group chat, the one I'm not in, with the message, "Looks like he finally grew a backbone." Josh screenshotted it and sent it to me. No caption, just the picture. They ended up booking emergency flights home. Only Brianna and Kaylee stayed one extra night to shoot some sponsored content. Free meal for an Instagram post. Everyone else flew back early, out thousands of dollars each. All their careful planning, undone. They ended up huddled in Keflavik Airport, freezing. Then they showed up at my door. I live in a small duplex in Portland that I bought myself after years of grinding while the family called me the boring one. 2 days after they landed, 6 of them appeared. Mom, Dad, Aunt Maureen, Uncle Jim, Josh, and Brianna. Probably for the drama. They pounded so hard I thought the hinges would give. It started semi-civil. Mom went straight for the guilt. Why didn't I talk to them first? As if I hadn't already asked about the charges weeks earlier. Aunt Maureen said I destroyed a once-in-a-lifetime family memory and humiliated them abroad. Uncle Jim claimed I made them look like criminals. Dad stood in the back with his arms crossed, waiting for me to apologize. They stayed 6 hours. 6. I never offered water, never opened the door more than a crack. I just sat inside and let them yell. Brianna kept trying to show me photos of what could have been. Josh barely said a word. Then Aunt Maureen went for it. We think you owe us compensation for what you cost us. Something inside me snapped. I asked if she wanted an itemized list of their theft or just the grand total. The mood shifted fast. They didn't leave on their own. I threatened to call the police for trespassing. That finally moved them. As Dad walked out last, he turned and said, "You think you're hurting us, but you're only making it worse for yourself." I locked every deadbolt and waited. I knew they weren't finished. I figured after 6 hours of screaming at me, they might feel some shame and stay away. They didn't. Days of silence. Then Josh texted, "They're planning to come back." No details, no timeline. Saturday at 2 p.m. they did. I saw Uncle Jim's beat-up white SUV parked halfway on the curb, dripping oil. Mom, Dad, Aunt Maureen, Uncle Jim, and Kaylee this time. They rang, knocked politely once, then started banging. Dad called my name like nothing had happened. I watched through the peephole for a minute. When I cracked the door with the chain still on, Mom asked if we could just talk. I said everything that needed saying last time. She gave me that half-furious, half-pleading look and said they weren't leaving until we worked it out. Like it was a mutual disagreement instead of grand theft. I counted to 10 out loud and told them to get off my property. Mom stuck her foot in the door. I slammed it harder than I meant to. She stumbled, caught the railing, and looked at me like I'd slapped her. Uncle Jim stepped forward, but I already had my phone out recording and 911 ready. I told them I had the entire last visit on camera, and this was trespassing again. They backed off, cursing under their breath. Dad stared me down from the steps like that would make me fold. Aunt Maureen muttered the whole way to the car. Kaylee slammed the door hard enough to rattle windows down the block. That night, I left every light in the house on. Couldn't sleep. Next morning, my car told the real story. Driver's side mirror shattered, hanging by wires. Long gouge above the rear wheel, definitely deliberate. Not random vandalism. A message. I checked neighbors, no one saw anything. But my new security camera caught it perfectly. They came back at 2:40 a.m. same SUV. No masks, no attempt to hide. Uncle Jim clear as day, swinging a crowbar. Kaylee laughing in the background. Mom standing lookout by the car. Pure arrogance. They thought I'd never do anything about it. I didn't call them. I saved the file, backed it up in 3 places, and drove straight to the police station. Showed the officer the time-stamped video. He watched, raised an eyebrow, and asked, "You want to press charges?" I said yes without blinking. It wasn't about the car. It wasn't even only about the money anymore. It was the entitlement, showing up over and over like I owed them silence. They didn't arrest anyone that day. Paperwork takes time. But 2 days later the video appeared online. I had only given it to the police. Someone leaked it. Title on a local subreddit. Family trashes guy's car after he reports them for stealing $10,000 Iceland trip. Hundreds of comments by noon. I didn't post it. Maybe a cop, maybe Josh, I never asked. By evening people were tagging Brianna and Kaylee everywhere. Someone found Aunt Maureen's Facebook and flooded her vacation album with the video. Uncle Jim's contracting business got hit with dozens of 1-star reviews overnight. They weren't just mad now, they were publicly humiliated. They came back again. This time no knocking. I heard doors slam and looked out to see them screaming on my lawn. Mom yelling that I had ruined her life. Aunt Maureen fake crying, calling me a monster who weaponized the internet. Dad threatening to sue me for defamation. Uncle Jim insisting the video was doctored. I didn't open the door. I called 911 loud enough for them to hear the dispatcher and watched them scatter when they realized sirens were coming. That night Josh showed up alone. Looked exhausted, said he was staying with a friend now and was done with all of them. I let him in. Then he told me the part that made my blood run cold. It wasn't just the $9,800. Aunt Maureen had gotten into my airline and hotel accounts too. 190,000 hard-earned points I'd been saving for years. Completely drained. used for first-class upgrades, private tours, all the luxurious bits they bragged about online. Josh handed me a USB drive full of screenshots. I didn't ask how he got them. That's when I realized this wasn't a mistake or even greed in the moment. It was calculated, repeated theft. Now it wasn't revenge anymore. It was war. By morning, the original post had blown up. Random TikTokers and YouTubers were stitching the security footage with Brianna's vacation reels. Uncle Jim's old customers started chiming in with their own shady stories. I didn't feed the fire, but I didn't put it out either. My inbox was flooded. Local news stations, strangers sending Venmo for my deductible, even a true crime podcast reaching out. I ignored everyone. Josh crashed on my couch for days, barely eating, asking over and over, "Are they actually going to jail? And you're really doing this?" I told him I'd already retained a lawyer. He didn't ask how I was paying. A week later, they tried the saddest play yet. Blocked number. I answered. Mom's voice, calm and rehearsed. They just wanted to make peace. A sit down, clear the air. I said I'd think about it. That night, Josh asked if I'd ever considered wearing a wire. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He'd overheard Aunt Maureen and Dad planning. They wanted me on record admitting I canceled everything out of spite, and that the charges were actually gifts. Classic trap. So I set a better one. I agreed to meet, but only at a busy downtown coffee shop with cameras everywhere. My lawyer okayed recording under state law. Josh sat 2 tables away pretending to study, phone propped up filming. Just me, Aunt Maureen, and Dad. They came in with fake hugs and big smiles, ordered lattes, asked about work like nothing happened, then laid out their offer. Drop all reports, no civil suit, and they'd pay me back $3,000. $3,000. For nearly 10 grand plus 190,000 points. They claimed it was all they could scrape together after rebooking fees and emotional damage. Then Aunt Maureen said the magic words, straight into my hidden mic. "We know you only reported it as fraud to punish us. You didn't really think it was unauthorized, right?" I finished my coffee, thanked them for coming, and walked out. Josh followed. We didn't speak until we were in the car. I emailed the audio to my lawyer before we hit the first red light. That night, someone egged my windows. I barely wiped it off. 2 weeks later, the detective called. Charges filed. Unauthorized access to financial accounts, criminal mischief, conspiracy. The recorded cafe conversation basically gift-wrapped it for them. Uncle Jim first. His business was already circling the drain from the bad reviews. The car vandalism video was the nail in the coffin. Then the IRS got involved. Someone in the viral thread tipped them off. Turns out Uncle Jim never claimed years of cash side jobs. Some of the Iceland money had moved through Brianna's and Kaylee's Venmo and Cash App. Aunt Maureen had used a fake, non-profit account to get travel discounts. The whole trip was tangled in tax fraud. A federal agent showed up at my door one morning, plain clothes, no drama, and asked for every screenshot, every recording, Josh's USB. I handed it all over. Subpoenas started flying. Brianna scrubbed her entire social media presence overnight. Uncle Jim put his business on hiatus. Aunt Maureen deleted everything. Mom and Dad went radio silent. Josh moved into his own place with money he'd saved and help from friends. He told me he was proud of me for not caving. First person in the family who ever stood up. I gave him a key to my place anyway. I recovered almost the entire $9,800 through the bank's fraud claim and a civil judgment they never contested once the criminal case started. The airline eventually restored my points too after seeing the police reports. I didn't just ruin their vacation. I ended the scam they thought they could run forever. For the first time, I wasn't begging for scraps at their table. I built my own and bolted the door. 5 months later, everything had quieted down. Criminal cases moving forward, money back in my account. That side of the family gone silent. Josh and I were actually close for once. I could finally breathe. Then a thick cream envelope showed up in my mail. No return address. Elegant calligraphy. Brianna was getting married. In Iceland. Again. Tucked inside was a handwritten card. This celebration is made possible by the extraordinary generosity of our beloved cousin Ryan. They didn't just invite me. They publicly listed me as the sponsor. I hadn't sent a dime, hadn't spoken to any of them since the cafe trap. The RSVP card was already checked, yes, with a flight voucher clipped to it. They were writing me into their redemption story without asking. Josh got the same invite, minus the sponsor part. He said they were spinning the whole thing as a family misunderstanding that brought everyone closer. Aunt Maureen was apparently calling it healing. Josh had a different plan. He booked a ticket, not to celebrate. He bought a good lavalier mic and a tiny 4K camera. He'll sit quietly through the ceremony, wait for the inevitable toast where Brianna thanks our generous cousin Ryan who made this possible again. Then stand up calmly, play the recordings, show the screenshots, lay out the fraud, the vandalism, the attempted cover-up, the active lawsuits. All of it, on video, in front of every guest, every photographer, every influencer they invited. No screaming, no drama, just the truth. Then we'll post it ourselves. They thought the wedding would rewrite the narrative and bury the past. Instead, it's going to be their public funeral. So what do you think about all this? Was I right to fight back this hard, or did I take it too far? Drop your thoughts below. I actually read them. And if the story hit you, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. We've got more wild family revenge stories coming. See you in the next one.